So, yet another bank with more mortgage securities fraud, and yet another situation where all we have is a fine. Now, it's a hefty fine. I'll give it to them. The government originally wanted a $12 billion fine. The original offer for Citigroup was $363 million. I mean, we did massive mortgage securities fraud. It helped to crash the economy in 2008. We'll just give you a little 363. Their excuse was, their lawyers kept going back to, well, we didn't do it as bad as JP Morgan Chase did it. Oh, well, okay. What are we, in third grade? So now, the final conclusion was a $7 billion fine. Okay, now, that's obviously significant. It's a lot more than Citigroup had offered. It's a lot more than analysts thought that was going to happen. The so-called experts in the field thought it would be about half that. But they got it all the way up to $7 billion. The Justice Department gets $4 billion of that fine. Customer aid is about $2.5 billion. It's a little unclear how that's going to be distributed right now. That's a little bit in the future, but the $4 billion is cash, and so is the $500 million going to the state attorney generals throughout the country and the FDIC. So all in all, if you're looking at just the spectrum of fines, it's not such a bad deal. Okay, now, what do they get in return? Well, all their liabilities for all the economic problems that they caused and all the fraud that they did washed away. Because there's one extra part of this deal you got to know about. New York Times explains, within weeks, Mr. West, who's number 3 at the Justice Department and negotiating on behalf of the government, agreed to Citigroup's request to forego cases related to collateralized debt obligations and offered to shift $400 million from the state attorneys general and the FDIC to the Justice Department, forming the basis of the current settlement. So, in other words, at the very end there, what happened was they said, hey, you know what? We'll give more to the Justice Department. The Justice Department's negotiating, so that's coming in. But plus, they don't get to write off as much in taxes. In fact, they were ready to sue Citibank and go to court. The government was. But that day, they announced that they had caught one of the culprits in Benghazi. So they canceled the press conference because they didn't want to get outshined there. And then in the meanwhile, they did this last-minute deal. But in return, what Citigroup gets is your mortgage securities fraud issues gone. And now your collateralized debt obligation problems, which I think actually in some ways are worse because they took what was a problem and amplified it. And that's part of the reason we had the crash. They're also swept away. They're gone. Now, does Eric Holder in the Justice Department know how much Citigroup did wrong? Of course. He says, despite the fact that Citigroup learned of serious and widespread defects among the increasingly risky loans they were securitizing, the bank and its employees concealed these defects. Now, if that's what they did, shouldn't they be in jail? Now, look, let's think this through. Imagine that you saw a mugging in the street, and a guy goes and takes $100 from somebody's pocket, and then the cops catch it. Do you think the cops would begin negotiations? All right, now look, Bob, I just saw you take that money. I'm going to need you to give 20 of it back. No, you only want to give 10 back. Mm-hmm. No, you know what? I'm tired of you. I'm going to get tough on you. I want you to give $50 back. No, the guy would get arrested. He'd go to jail. And then after serving probably considerable time in prison, he'd also have to give the $100 back, right? But here, jail is not even in the equation. So a lot of people are celebrating this like the Justice Department did a great job. They did get a better than expected number. So as fines go, it's a good fine, right? It's a funny thing to say. But the idea of criminal action is so far out the window that it's not even mentioned in any of these articles. But you think they would have paid a $7 billion fine with their army of lawyers if they didn't do it? Of course they did it, and we know it, the Attorney General knows it, and they know it. And they also know that under no circumstances will people actually go to jail for fraud. And it's the type of fraud that if you had done it on 1/1,000,000th of the scale that they did it on, it's a guarantee that you would go to prison for. So why do they have these different rules? Gee, I wonder why the American people are mad at Wall Street, are mad at the guys in the financial industry that clearly have bought off the politicians in Washington. I wonder why Congress now has a 7% approval rating. 7%! That smashes all records. In fact, Gallup said it is the most unpopular institution ever in American history. Because, hey, listen, you conservatives who hate big government, you're right. Big government, look at the Justice Department. Yeah, they got a nice fine, but they didn't even consider bringing anybody to jail, right? Okay, you're mad at them. Well, who corrupted them? Yes, they're corrupt, but somebody corrupted them. It was the people who pay the bills, the people who just got off with yet another situation where they should have gone to jail and didn't go to jail. Those executives, they're not returning their bonus. They got their bonus and they went home with it. That's why Republicans are mad. You got Eric Cantor losing in a primary. First time that's ever happened where the House Majority Leader loses in a primary. And why? Because the guy running against them said, goddamn Wall Street. You got Democrats who are mad about it. If they bothered to do primaries, believe me, those guys would rout Democratic establishment politicians. But the band plays on in Washington and New York. Another fine, another day. No one ever goes to jail.